Good morning, everybody. Okay, so yesterday I had to file this lawsuit against people in Texas that will not leave me alone, even though I'm here in Florida. And what their obsession is, you tell me. I don't even know. So here's where I used to live in Texas, and here's the route I took. Took me 3 or 4 days to get here. And here's Clearwater, Florida. And so when you leave a big state and you go and move, it's over. I turned in my keys. I owed them not a penny. I got out of my lease through an NDA because of the black mold. And I kept it really quiet because I had to forcibly sign an NDA. And lo and behold, here's the exhibit. These are going to be exhibits inside the court because you have to lay out for people what happened. So this is going to be one of my exhibits and strategy when I go to trial. Because unlike what they did in Texas, they tried to hold a trial without me prepared, but I won anyway. Okay. So here's the receipt. I made the manager sign that I turned in my pool. You know, you had to wear these little pool wristbands so that they knew you were a tenant. And I had garage remote controls. And I even had an extra one from the old owners because when I lost mine, they were so kind. They let me have another one and I turned them all back in. So I made her sign for what I returned. And I signed that on the 24th of September last year. And then here's Kayleen Baril. This, I don't know what's wrong with her. She's controlling, she's evil, um, whatever. I look at her like a spider in a web, and whoever she's trying to catch, I don't even know. But she tried to continue to get me 1,200 miles away. And what happened was because of that NDA, I think she thought she could continue to harass me and she wouldn't have any repercussions, but it's not true. So what happened is she sent me this fake bill. And if you enlarge this, I don't know if I can enlarge it. So it was sent to me on 10/17, and it's for electricity after I moved out. And then what they did is they charged $1.78 for electricity and then a late fee. And my guess was that if you, oh, I can even get it bigger. My guess was that if you see how it said 9/25 and 9/26, I left on the 24th. And so this also says that it's not from the electric company, it's just using the electric logo, which is a crime. You can't fake making a bill when they don't even have your electrical account. And when anybody rents an apartment, you have to call up the electric company, set up your own account, and um and get it. And if you owe the electric company, they come after you. So I settled all up with them, and then this arrived. And whatever her mindset was with this, you tell me. Because when I asked her, are you doing this because of the NDA? The next thing I got in the mail was them, her calling her manager and boo-hooing and trying to act like the victim when she was the predator. So don't forget, this is there was like 3 feet or more of this black mold, and it kept growing and growing and growing. And black mold, as you can see in these really thick parts, it grows thicker and thicker. And I did not know it was there because there was a table in front of that. And so I kept getting sick and I had no idea why. So anyway, um, what they did when they found out, the first thing they did was they said, oh, well, one manager there said, oh, well, we'll have to relocate you to another unit. And to move myself and the things I was selling was this gigantic operation. And they were so disconnected that they didn't want to pay all that. And they didn't even have a place because the way I had been set up by the people that took it before, they didn't have that offering in a different property. So, long story short, they harassed me so much and it got so scary. I decided to leave the state and go to Florida. And so, in the process of them not accepting liability for this mold, Kayleen tried to blame me. She called it organic growth. They wouldn't even own that it happened from a leak in their sink. And they were really negligent on handling it and so on. And then their manager retaliated by trying to give me a fake eviction notice and serving me, which is illegal. So I put this on here and what the code is and what the laws are that you can't do it. And then, of course, Kayleen, who initiated all this stuff and the fake bill, ended up boo-hooing to her 30-year-old manager. And what happened was, I thought she was a lawyer because her title is legal operations manager. And how can you be a legal operations manager when you don't have a bar card and you're not a lawyer? So, one of the reasons I took down my videos is because until the trial, I did not know she wasn't a lawyer, but this is how she acted. She never contacted me for my side. That is the first thing that you're supposed to do. She just acted like a bulldog and um, came after me and never even contacted me at all. And so when they served me with this letter of a cease and desist, I wasn't letting, here's where I live in Florida. I wasn't accepting it. I'm like, you're not going to start all this harassment from here and all this garbage that you did over there. I don't live then. I'm not even in the state anymore. So I refuse this. So once I refused it, I served them with letters saying, I'm going to sue you. Finally, I never should have signed the thing under duress. You're harassing me. I'm not going to put up with this here. And then the next thing that they did was they hired Tiffanie, who's their lawyer. She never contacted me and never said, do you have a side? Is this accurate? What, you're harassing Kayleen. And I'm like, no, I'm responding to her. And these people are so lunatic. They're such lunatics. They reverse everything. So a temporary restraining order cannot be used. It is multiple felonies. It's tampering with government records and more other things and perjury to try to stop someone with a TRO when actually you have a civil dispute and they don't even have a counterclaim because they're the ones that owe me. And they're trying to make it like I owe them. And I don't owe them a penny. So what happened is when they served that TRO, it had a date of February 3rd for trial. And instead of that, she added 2 hearings right after it was served, assuming that I'd missed the hearings, then default myself. And then they're going to add a bond saying that I owe them. Can you even imagine that level of criminality? But that's what they did. And so we ended up having this trial. It's a long story. I got in the wrong Zoom room and they ended up having a hearing when I wasn't even prepared for trial. And Tiffanie lied to the first judge to get it to go forward. And then by the time I was there, they were having this hearing. I didn't have paperwork ready. I didn't have exhibits ready. I didn't have witnesses ready. But I had myself and I had emails. And so when they took a lunch break, I got to upload a few. And then I cross-examined their perjuring witness, which was Connie, this manager, and she ended up perjuring herself under oath. And then I ended up testifying and telling them, they're saying breach. No, I signed this under duress in the first place, and there was no breach. They came after me. So the judge denied the TRO, and it's right here is the copy of her judicial notes. And then you would think anybody with a brain, one working brain cell would say, okay, we're done. Not these people. I tried every kind of offer from almost nothing to scaring them with how much it could be. They wouldn't even offer 1 penny. I was like, okay. So what happened was they hate me. They hate grandmas. I don't even know what it is. They violate senior citizens. They hate people that are smart, whatever. I have no idea. So what happened was I filed this complaint yesterday, and Tiffanie wrote to me, "We are not interested in negotiating at this time." Can you imagine? And there was one email when she stated her whole complaint was that I violated the NDA and I wasn't supposed to say anything bad about this place, except that I had to say that under duress. And they figured this fake NDA would hold up when it won't, especially when you're committing crimes. It all comes out. And so what happened was she wanted me to not say anything so that fake lawyer can go still get her law degree and use her law license like a weapon, just like Tiffanie does. So here's exactly the condition that it was like. Slumlords getting ready for a new tenant. They just re-rented my apartment. They never went in to go redo the kitchen, which they were redoing all these different units, and they should have updated that one because it was very, very old. And then they would have gotten to where was the leak and never had this happen to anybody else. And instead, they just rented out my unit, painted over the mold stains that I used bleach and water to get them off, and put someone else in there. And then here's your definition of a slumlord. At the time of our trial, there were 80 vacant units in the building, and that's a lot. I think there's 32 buildings, and I'm not really sure how many apartments are in each building, but I think there's maybe 500 units. I'm just not positive. But that's a huge ratio, and it happened a bunch. It was like the third time I saw that many empty units because people kept breaking their leases. Now, this is what they did to us when I was trying to move out and when I was as sick as a dog. This is an ethnic festival of 32 families that moved into this complex. And this is the building across from me. And then there's a garage set, and then there's my building. They blocked the entire set of parking. The fire trucks couldn't get through. They had this truck or a different truck with a blowhorn saying something in another language. This went on for 2 weeks, and it happened every single night. And if I was the manager, 32 families, I think it was a few hundred people. What you do is you find a place for them or tell them there's this hall, or you can do it here. We had a pavilion and here you can do it, but you cannot block the street. Look at them from like 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 9 or 10 at night. This is how it was. I couldn't even get into my garage. And my driver that was, loading up the truck couldn't even get in because you were so scared you were going to hit the kids. And by the way, they were all running barefoot. And I was just like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. And this is what they were setting up and taking down. And there was trash every day and food. And over here in this corner, there were garages, and then there were garages on this side. And they were serving hot food in a lineup like a takeout buffet line when it was 110 degrees. And it was insane. They had even moved a refrigerator into a garage, and they were serving sodas, and they had these takeout plates and this. It was quite an assembly, and it obviously wasn't their first time holding this kind of a festival, but they were squishing it in between like 3 or 4 garages and 2 buildings and every space in the parking lot and whatever. And every other tenant couldn't even get into their parking. It was lunacy. And it was so hot and so smelly. And of course, it brought in animals. So this is one of the trucks that we finally got in to get loaded. But we had to move all those people and get everything out of the way and make sure we didn't hit any children. And I had to give away all kinds of stuff because I wasn't prepared to move. I had just gotten there. So this is the last things I owned getting given away because they just wouldn't fit in a truck. Now, one of the side effects from all this stress was that I started biting on my my back teeth, like it's called grinding your teeth. And that's how I ended up losing a tooth. And it was just and I'm still doing it sort of, but not as bad because I have to turn a lot in bed and watch it because my body wants to continue to grind just from this amount of stress. This is what it was like every single week under this management. This is how they kept the trash. And of course, as I showed you in that other video, um, they present it like 4 and 5 star living, and it isn't. Now, this is a skunk, okay? There was a hole on the outside door of my garage, big enough for an animal to get through. And the whole first year I lived there, not only were there not any skunks, no one would have thought that there would be one. Everybody had garages and we used them constantly. So this is stuff I was tossing and getting ready to put into the dumpster. There's my trash bag and extra hangers and whatever after I unloaded. And that skunk buried itself into there and scared me to death. And when I say scared me to death, I was using the broom to sweep up and get ready to load this stuff on one of those, one of those dolly things that you wheel to the trash. And that skunk moved. And then I heard it move. And then I came face to face with it. And I was so scared to get sprayed. And then I was thinking, oh my God, everything I own is going to stink. And then the next 2 buildings are going to smell for how long? And I just sat there paralyzed and hysterical. And I ended up getting to leave, but it took us a whole day to get the skunk out. And it never would have been here except for the food and the fact that they're inviting him in here. And the manager kept going, oh, yes, we're disrupting the earth and it's natural. And we're doing building and construction around the area and they're just relocating. No, they weren't. They were coming because of this. And so weren't the drug dealers. And at one point, outside of this, the different entrance, there were 2 entrances. There was a homeless camp. And the people from the homeless camp came here for mattresses, for furniture, for food. And they went through all of this because from Thursday night until Sunday night, this was left there every single week. It was insane. And so that's the end of that story, I guess. But they've paid me 0. And even if they don't want to settle a claim, the best thing for them to have done was say, every single number I tossed out, they said no. And I said to them, how much would you want for your mom or for your grandmom that went through what I went through? Just give me a number. And they can't answer. And they can't even own that this is what they did to me and what it's like. And they won't let go of this NDA. They're trying to somehow still like stalk my life all the time and see if I talk about them and then they can file another complaint. It's not going to happen. We're going to end it now. They breached it in the first place by trying to put in the fake temporary restraining order and going to tell the whole court on the record in a hearing everything that was in the NDA. Like these people just don't have a brain. But they're so evil and they're so angry. And why are they angry at me? Ask them. I don't have any idea. It's if you look at the distance that I live from them, this is what's happening to people in Florida. They're chasing you from here. What? Really? I don't even understand. And this is why I have to lay out what happened. No one has a right to chase you when you've gone, especially when you're out of the state. And just by the stroke of luck, they didn't have a place to relocate me, but I wouldn't have trusted them anyway, because the way this company runs, from the building manager to their legal team, they're just evil and they abuse people and they abuse tenants and senior citizens. And so why would you go from the horrible place that you lived and trust them to a place that you don't even know about, because they're probably all run the same way. Now, I've done other videos. They've got other negative reviews. Tiffanie has very short and terrible reviews and not much action on her law firm. But I asked her once in an email, are you blackmailed? Like, I couldn't even understand why she would not tell her client the truth and the law and say, I can't do this. You'll have to hire another lawyer. Because if someone asks me to do what she has willingly done, I would say, no, I'm not jeopardizing my bar card. And she's just willing to do it. And as you can see in that one email she sent, they don't want to negotiate even after trial. And there's nothing I can do except go forward. So this is exhibit one of where we're going with this. And I will add to this because this is going to be the story that I get to present to the jury. And I have to go forward with bar complaints and criminal complaints because you can't do what you're doing and not have consequences. And there's nobody that's above the law. And they already, you know, they've abused my kindness of trying to say, are you serious? Are we still going to keep this up? And they just won't relent. And so I got to go forward because I'm going to Florida court to nullify this NDA so that not only can they never contact me again, I'm free as I've always been. And don't ever sign one of those with these horrible kind of people. It doesn't cover crimes if they're committing them in the first place, but they will just harass you and then try to make it sound like you're doing it. I don't want anything to do with them. And I don't care about them at all. But the connection they want to hold on me is lunacy. It's, and you'd have to ask them what their problem is because it isn't explained in human terms. Thank you.